Did you know that some of the foods you eat every day could be secretly triggering cancer in your body? Think about that for a moment. The snacks in your pantry, the ingredients in your favorite meals, could they really be harming you? It's a scary thought, right? But it's true. There are certain common foods that are linked to cancer, and most of us don't even realize it. Today we're uncovering 10 of these foods you'll want to avoid at all costs to protect your health. Let's get started. Our first culprit is something a lot of us enjoy, but the truth is, its preparation can be a real problem. When you fry foods at high temperatures, something called acrylamide is formed. This happens when starchy foods like potatoes are cooked at high heat. Now, acrylamide is labeled as a probable human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Why? Studies have linked it to several types of cancer in animal studies. Now, I'm not saying you can never enjoy fried chicken again, but you want to practice moderation. Try baking or air frying as healthier alternatives. These methods can give you that satisfying crunch without generating as much acrylamide. It's all about making smarter choices. Remember, it's all about balance. Enjoying fried foods occasionally as part of a balanced diet is unlikely to be a major health concern for most people, but making a habit of consuming them regularly, that's when you run into problems. What can you do? Well, baking, roasting, grilling, these are all great alternatives that can help you cut down on acrylamide. Plus, they can bring out amazing flavors in your food. So next time you're craving something crispy, think about those alternatives. Your body will thank you for it. Let's talk about processed meats. We're talking about bacon, sausage, hot dogs. They're delicious, but they're also on our list for a reason. These meats are often cured, smoked, or salted to enhance flavor and extend shelf life. But this processing often involves adding nitrates and nitrites, and that's where things get tricky. You see, nitrates and nitrites can transform into compounds called nitrosamines in your body. And guess what? Nitrosamines are known carcinogens. That means they have the potential to damage your DNA and increase the risk of cancer. The World Health Organization actually classifies processed meats as carcinogenic to humans. That's a pretty serious designation and something to keep in mind. Now, I understand that giving up bacon entirely might seem impossible for some, and that's okay. Start by cutting back on your consumption. Look for nitrate-free options. There are plenty of great alternatives available these days, from lean poultry to plant-based protein sources. By making conscious choices about the meats you consume, you can significantly reduce your risk. This one's a big one, and it's something we all need to be aware of: refined sugar. We're not talking about the natural sugars found in fruits and vegetables. We're talking about the added sugars that are in so many processed foods and sugary drinks. The problem with refined sugar is that it's like a silent attacker. It sneaks into our diets and wreaks havoc on our bodies. High sugar intake leads to inflammation throughout the body, and chronic inflammation is a major risk factor for cancer. And if that weren't bad enough, excess sugar consumption contributes to obesity, which is another well-established risk factor for several types of cancer. So what can we do? We need to break free from the grip of refined sugar. And it's not about deprivation, it's about making smarter choices. Opt for natural sweeteners like honey or maple syrup in moderation. Read food labels carefully and be mindful of hidden sugars in things like sauces, dressings, and condiments. By reducing your overall sugar intake, you'll be taking a major step towards protecting your health from cancer. Chapter 4, Canned Tomatoes, a Hidden Danger. Canned tomatoes, they're convenient, they're versatile, and they seem harmless enough, right? Well, there's a hidden danger lurking in those cans that we need to talk about. Most canned foods, including tomatoes, are packaged in cans lined with a chemical called BPA, or bisphenol A. Now, why is BPA a concern? Studies have linked BPA to an increased risk of certain cancers, including breast cancer and prostate cancer. It's what we call an endocrine disruptor, meaning it can interfere with the normal functioning of our hormones. The good news is that awareness about BPA is growing, and many manufacturers are now producing BPA-free cans. When you're shopping for canned tomatoes, look for those labeled as BPA-free. Even better, choose fresh tomatoes whenever possible. They taste amazing, they're packed with nutrients, and you don't have to worry about BPA exposure. Chapter 5, Microwave Popcorn, a Convenient Risk. Microwave popcorn. It's the perfect snack for a movie night, but there are some hidden dangers in those convenient bags. It's not the popcorn itself that's the problem, but rather the chemicals lurking in the bag's lining and in the artificial butter flavoring. One of these chemicals is called diacetyl. Diacetyl is used to give microwave popcorn that buttery flavor, but studies have linked it to lung damage and an increased risk of respiratory problems. In fact, there have been cases of workers in microwave popcorn factories developing a serious lung disease called bronchiolitis obliterans, which is also known as popcorn lung due to its association with diacetyl exposure. So, what can you do? The good news is that there are safer ways to enjoy popcorn. Consider making popcorn on the stovetop. It's easy, it's affordable, and you have complete control over the ingredients. You can use a little bit of coconut oil or olive oil for popping and add your own natural seasonings like sea salt, nutritional yeast, or herbs and spices. It's a much healthier and tastier option. Chapter 6. The Dirty Dozen. Pesticides and Your Plate. You know I'm all about eating your fruits and vegetables, but we need to talk about something called the Dirty Dozen. Every year, the Environmental Working Group, EWG, releases a list of the 12 fruits and vegetables that tend to have the highest levels of pesticide residues. These residues come from the pesticides used in conventional agriculture to protect crops from insects, weeds, and diseases. While pesticides can help increase crop yields, they also pose potential risks to human health. Exposure to certain pesticides has been linked to an increased risk of cancer, hormone disruption, and other health problems. So what can we do? We're not going to avoid fruits and vegetables altogether. Instead, we're going to be smart about the choices we make. The easiest way to reduce your exposure to pesticide residues is to choose organic options, especially for those fruits and vegetables on the Dirty Dozen list. Organic produce is grown without the use of synthetic pesticides, so it's a much safer option for both your health and the environment. Now let's talk about an ingredient that's often hiding in plain sight: hydrogenated oils. These oils are found in many processed foods, and they're a major source of trans fats in our diets. Trans fats are created when liquid vegetable oils are turned into solid fats through a process called hydrogenation. This process makes the oils more stable and increases their shelf life, but it also creates those harmful trans fats. Consuming trans fats has been linked to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancer. They're considered to be the most harmful type of fat you can consume. The good news is that awareness about the dangers of trans fats has grown, and many food manufacturers have reduced or eliminated their use in recent years. However, they can still be found in some processed foods, so it's essential to read food labels carefully. Avoid foods that list partially hydrogenated oil in the ingredients list. Instead, choose foods made with healthier fats, such as olive oil, avocado oil, or coconut oil. Chapter 8. Soda, the sugary foe. Soda. It's one of the biggest culprits in the modern diet, and it's loaded with sugar and chemicals that can harm our health. Let's break down why soda deserves a spot on our list of foods to avoid. First and foremost, soda is a major source of added sugar. Just one can of soda can contain up to 10 teaspoons of sugar. As we discussed earlier, excess sugar intake is linked to inflammation, obesity, and an increased risk of cancer. But soda's dangers don't end there. It's also loaded with artificial colors, flavors, and preservatives, all of which can have negative effects on our health. Some studies have even suggested that the caramel coloring used in some sodas may contain a potentially carcinogenic compound called 4-methylamidazole, 4-MEI. The good news is that breaking up with soda is easier than you might think. There are so many delicious and refreshing alternatives available these days. Chapter 9. GMOs, Unraveling the Controversy. Let's talk about GMOs, or genetically modified organisms. GMOs are plants or animals that have had their genetic makeup altered in a laboratory setting. This genetic engineering is often done to introduce traits like resistance to herbicides or pests. While proponents of GMOs argue that they can increase crop yields and reduce the need for pesticides, there are also concerns about their potential impact on human health and the environment. One of the main concerns with GMOs is their connection to herbicides like glyphosate. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup, a widely used herbicide, and it has been classified as a probable human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. GMO crops are often engineered to be resistant to glyphosate, which allows farmers to use larger quantities of this herbicide without harming the crops. However, this also means that residues of glyphosate can end up in our food supply. While more research is still needed to fully understand the long-term health effects of GMOs, it's wise to be mindful of their presence in our food supply. Chapter 10. Farmed Salmon, the Omega-3 Dilemma. Salmon is often touted as a health food, and for good reason. It's a great source of protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and other essential nutrients. However, not all salmon is created equal. There's a significant difference between wild-caught salmon and farmed salmon, especially when it comes to potential contaminants. Farmed salmon is raised in crowded conditions and often fed an unnatural diet of soy, poultry byproducts, and artificial coloring to give it that pink hue. Due to these farming practices, farmed salmon can contain higher levels of contaminants, including PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls. PCBs are industrial chemicals that have been linked to an increased risk of cancer, hormone disruption, and other health problems. Wild-caught salmon, on the other hand, roam free in their natural habitat and consume a diet of krill, shrimp, and other marine organisms. This natural diet results in higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids and lower levels of contaminants, making wild-caught salmon a healthier choice. When buying salmon, opt for wild-caught varieties whenever possible. Look for labels that indicate the salmon's origin and whether it was farmed or wild-caught. So there you have it, 10 common foods that could be secretly increasing your risk of cancer. I know it can be overwhelming to think about all of the potential dangers lurking in our food supply, but remember, knowledge is power. By being aware of these foods and making informed choices about what we eat, we can take control of our health and reduce our risk of developing this serious disease. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Were there any foods on this list that shocked you? Are there other foods you're curious about when it comes to health risks? Let's keep this conversation going. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more tips for living a healthier life. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next video.